Fanfiction panel, where the only red and black alicorns are on the warning signs, and the only spaghetti that you will find is in the food court.
I love you all.
If we had a food court. All right, so we're going to start this off, just giving you a brief outline of what we're going to do. We're going to start with some introductions. Then we're going to go to a little bit of a roundtable discussion with Jake, the Army guy, moderating.
Yeah.
And then we'll take questions.
And then we'll take questions from you guys.
The questions are not going to be answered by everyone, so if you want somebody specific to answer a question, ask them specifically.
You can just like point to them very rudely.
Yes.
This is not to do with notes of Pen
Stroke. As much as we love you, Pen Stroke, we have to ask questions.
This is not the Pen Stroke and Friends panel.
No.
Yes.
All right, so
say Nick's on that.
Okay, on the count of three and look at opposite again. 1, 2, 3.
Someone keep score of this, just so we know how much to hit.
All right, so introductions. I'll go first. My name is Golden Vision, author on FimFiction, and we're also going to go down and say one interesting thing about ourselves. So one interesting thing about me is that I've been a fanfic reviewer for 2 years.
Alright, I'm Barack Panza, so everybody just calls me BP, because who can remember that? I'm also an author on FimFiction, but I'm mostly known for being involved with reviewing groups. I co-founded the Writers and Reviewers Institute for Technical Excellence. Please submit to us if you want to get a review.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. You're not going to say you're on Seattle's Angels? You don't want to mention that?
Seattle.
Yeah, you are on that. That's kind of
Okay,
that's the thing.
Okay, hi, I'm Obselescence. I'm a FimFiction moderator. I am an author. You may have read some of my stories and not realized it was me. Yeah.
Okay.
That is me.
Okay.
Man of many
All right.
hats.
I'm Alex Magnet, also part of Seattle's Angels. Written a lot of things, probably most notably, Scootaloo Dies a Bunch. And a bunch of other stories.
I'm Sunchaser, fanfiction author, and Celestia is Best Princess. I've written such things as A Finer Vintage, Lavender Letter, Destiny, and Other Lies Told to Fools, most of which revolve around Celestia, imagine that. And an interesting thing about me is that I taught Japanese for 2 years at a university.
Did they call you senpai at the end of it?
Kawaii, so desu.
So are you
knows lots of
Hopefully
you're
senpai noticed me.
Sunchaser Senpai then?
I am indeed senpai.
All right, good.
Right, I am Pen Stroke, author of a few things like Little Sugar Shop of Horror, Drop of Moonshine, I'm forgetting one.
Oh, process.
I don't remember what it was.
Fantastic.
It's like just like the giant
That
elephant.
one story that was really big back in the day actually isn't really good anymore.
Is there a giant elephant?
Did you write My Little Dashie?
Just like
No. And one interesting thing about me, I was born in Worland, Wyoming, a town of 5,000.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, and last but certainly not least,
Least by depends on who you ask. Jake the Army Guy. I am a fanfiction author of absolutely no acclaim. Big story I've written is Under a Luminous Sky. It's a murder mystery. Interesting thing about me is I am in the U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and I just got done with a 2-year tour of being a drill sergeant. Those guys are trying to have
so make sure your questions are good ones, because if they're not, we'll make you drop down and give them 200.
I will make you beat your face.
You will. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a little bit of a roundtable discussion. Jake has some questions. He's going to moderate that, and then that'll go on for a little while, and then we'll go to questions.
Okay, here's one that always comes up. Do you build characters, or do they sort of spring from the well? Do they come organically from the story, or do you start with a good character in mind?
I think that sort of depends on what you want to be the spotlight of your story. Like if you're building an interesting setting, like Tolkien, those characters will sort of spring from that.
Yeah. If you're building a story around a character, you probably want to establish them first, and you generally, like if you're going to do that, you want to build them. Although maybe you just get inspired by something, build a character, write a story around them. But I guess it sort of depends.
And it can also depend whether or not you have the inspirations. Like you're maybe working on a story that's more setting driven and whatnot, but it's like, oh, we are going to a blacksmith at some point because I have a really good idea for a blacksmith. And at the same time, sometimes you can just have a vagueness of, okay, I need this character to be insane. And we'll figure out how that insanity works when we get to them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got an important character, there's a method I might suggest for you. It works for me, might work for you. Think about what kind of person they are when they're alone, when they're with strangers and when they're with friends, and that can help you develop their reactions whenever they're in a given situation in your story.
Yeah, a trick I actually learned from Golden Vision up there is when you're trying to write a story, if you're stuck in a scene, build a little sheet, a character sheet about it, kind of like when you're playing like D&D and stuff like that. Like, just really get into, find out little random things about the character, like things like what's their favorite color, you know, favorite food, stuff like that. Because if you flesh it out and develop it more in your head, it can sort of help you direct the scene where you want it to go.
You want to know more about your character than you're ever going to use.
Yeah. And something that a friend told me just the other day, actually, because I was having a bit of writer's block, couldn't really get into a character's head, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And he's like, well, a lot of the time, obviously, you can't get into a character that you're not connected with. So something that a lot of famous authors do is they try to put something of themselves in the character. Don't make them a self-insert, but give them something you can relate to. And that's what really makes a character that kind of leaps off the page. Like, because usually when you make a character, they're just on paper, they're just two-dimensional. And so you, the author, have to reach out and kind of grab them and pull them out and kind of mold them into something three-dimensional that a reader can really relate to.
Just when you're at the point where you can throw out a situation and go like, this is how my character would react, that's when you know you've got
Right,
something
when you
good.
don't even think about it, you just write and you know exactly what your character's going to do. That's a good character.
All right.
That's why we have ponies.
Of course. That's half the fun of fanfiction. You get to use other people's characters.
Yeah.
All right. This is one I think more people need to pay attention to. How do you take criticism constructively, even when it's not given constructively? 'Cause I'm sure everyone here has got that one comment on their story that just said, you know, you're right, a 100,000 word epic, and the only comment is, you suck.
Yeah.
Well, how do you take that well?
If you want to
How
start.
do you use that?
First, you ask for clarification.
Like what?
In what ways do I suck?
Yeah.
Every way. All of them, then I guess you just stop writing. Not actually.
Though sometimes it's like if it's truly like one bit of my version of "You Suck" I got for Past Sins was someone drew, I think, a 7 to 6 page comic of Warren Faust beating Nyx to a pulp before Dr. Doom arrived to use Nyx as a tactical nuclear device against Pony Burrow.
Well,
Okay, can I interrupt and say, I'm sorry, I love you, Pen Stroke, but I saw that comic and it was hilarious.
It's like, you suck, you ask for clarification. When someone's outright assaulting, you may not want to go towards the knife sometimes.
The important thing to remember about criticism is that when people are giving it, you should consider all of it. You don't have to agree or listen to all of it, but you should at least consider it.
And you know, here's the thing. If someone's actually like giving criticism that proves they read the story, first thing you want to think about is, hey man, they thought my story was worth looking at in the first place.
Yeah, and worth commenting on, because honestly, I welcome constructive criticism. I mean, I might not always like it, especially after I've already published the dang thing. But honestly, for me, the biggest thing to remember, or to try to remember when I'm writing a story is, who here has heard of the saying, kill your darlings? Where if you love something about your story, it's gotta go.
Don't literally kill your darling.
Don't literally kill your darling.
Well, yeah, there's another saying like that in film, and it's cut what you love.
Yeah, because when you're writing something, nothing can be sacred. Like
Right.
maybe it's the one scene that made you want to start writing the story. Maybe it makes you tear up every time, but you need to think about what you're writing. Does this scene need to be here? Is this something that I can get rid of? Is this something that the story requires? And if people are telling you, you might love this, but I don't think it works out, then you really need to sit down and honestly consider that point of view before going any further.
You're writing what's best for the story, not what's best for you.
Personal follow-up, I cry every time.
I didn't cry.
I actually, on my story, the scene that I had, that I built the entire story around, like the whole thing stemmed from this one scene, was the first thing that GB and Mayo has told me, yeah, this needs to go.
Yeah, we just gotta like yank it out, like cut it out with a scalpel, and then just
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
The one thing I will say though is if you get, it's like, let's say you get a comment like this on a story you've published and haven't touched for a few months. That isn't usually a reason to go back and like, oh, I've got to change everything. That's something to take along with you to the next story. So
Yeah.
it's like, no story's going to be perfect. If you keep going back to change it, you're just going to drive yourself mad. And like, for example, I have been told multiple times I'm bad at forgetting Spike.
And just in
Everybody
general,
forgets Spike the rest of the writing.
Right?
What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
And just in general, you know, be cool. It's not worth it to insult people you think that might be there just to trash on you. Just say, you know, okay, I got your opinion. Have a nice day.
Exactly. Even if people are being mean, you don't need to be mean back. You can just ignore them. That is a thing you can do.
A thing to remember is, even in the most vicious and insulting criticism, is that a person isn't necessarily attacking you, the person, they're attacking the story, which is not integral to you as a person. Because there might be something about a story they don't like, but this doesn't mean that they're directly thrusting a knife in your face. You don't have to take it that way.
Right. Unless they are throwing a knife in your face. Like,
But then you have bigger problems.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot of people raise their hand when they said they're writers. So if you had one piece of advice to give to a new writer, what would it be? One piece of catch-all, do this or you fail.
Do you guys want to just go down the line?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
right.
All right. You want to start?
Can I offer an initial piece of advice?
Go for it.
Don't break your writing hand.
Not to insult intelligence, but if you need to be told that, then, you know, hey, I got nothing for you.
Maybe you shouldn't be here if you need to.
Go outside, go find something shiny to look at.
I'll try to avoid the low-hanging fruit because I know there's one thing that we all agreed upon earlier as a key piece of advice, and all. So we'll see if anyone else grabs it. One thing I'll say is to make sure that you're writing a story that's the right size for your idea. If you're fiddling with an idea and it's comedic and whatnot, don't make it into a 10-chapter epic where you only get to the punchline at the last scene. It's like comedy's better in short doses because people want to go laugh afterward or something. But then if you're writing it's a grand adventure to places unknown, to dragons and griffins and zebras, oh my. Then you may want to give it more than the 1,000-word limit, minimum of FimFiction. So, good advice.
The one thing that I do for all of my writing, and you may do this or you may do it to a degree that I do or you may not, is I always ask why for everything that goes in. Whether a character should be there, if a certain line of dialogue should be there, for a scene to be placed wherever. I always ask, why is this here? What does this do? Is it going to inform something later? Does it have to be here? And if something doesn't have a reason to be in the story where it is, it gets cut.
Yeah, it's a bit like that Kurt Vonnegut rule where everything should have a purpose. You don't want to never waste your reader's time.
The definition behind Chekhov's gun.
Yeah,
if there's a gun on the mantle that you described,
everything you described could better have some payoff. The one thing I would suggest, you don't have to be an English major, but have decent grammar. That's all. Like, because no matter how good your story is, if it's the best story in the world, but you have unreadable grammar, nobody's gonna bother.
Thanks.
Hey, Elijah.
Yeah, learn like the 2 comma rules you need.
Like, most people won't mind that much if you mix up N dashes and M dashes.
Nobody's gonna care.
Basic comma and quotation mark punctuation, stuff like that.
Just to follow up on that, from the perspective of somebody who has done a linguistics degree for 5 years, grammar is like the vehicle that language uses.
Yeah.
So no matter what type of story you're trying to tell, if the vehicle doesn't work, people are never going to get there. So you want to make sure that it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can have your stylistic differences, as we've said, but you want the basic vehicle to be identifiable to everyone.
needs 4 wheels and an engine.
So, when you're a writer, you have to do it right. No, okay, seriously.
Okay, one more time, judgmental look at odds, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, but no, seriously. My advice for you is that you should read a lot of published authors. No advice that we're going to give you here is going to teach you more about writing than seeing how, the pros actually do it. Look at how they describe a scene, how they build a character. And just sort of think about that and how you can apply that to your own writing.
You don't have to copy it, but try and emulate it.
Yeah, and something that a friend of mine has done is just, after you read a book that you thought was really good, wait maybe 2 days or something, go back and read it again. And this time take note of everything that the author did. The first time you're just a reader, that's fine. The second time, look at it as a writer. What did the author do right? Why was this scene so effective? Why did this line that came out of nowhere just kind of lay me flat on the floor? Just kind of think about these things.
And the more you write, everyone starts off with hints of who they've been reading. Some people will write they've been reading Tolkien all their lives. But as you continue to make new stories, eventually you'll develop your own style.
Yeah.
Are we sure that Blue Ship isn't actually Terry Pratchett?
I think Blue Shift might be Douglas Adams.
I can buy that.
If there's one thing I'd ask that newer authors keep in mind, it would be not to become too whether it's a success or a failure, not to become too focused on how your first couple stories do, because there are a lot of authors out there who they think they're excellent just because their first story was received very well, and there are others who think they're terrible because their first story was received poorly. Like, either way, you've got to get better after that. You can't just leave it there. You can't just stop your growth, and you can't just stop, period.
Grow ever more powerful.
Right. Super quick, one thing I want to add on that is when you're looking at other people, don't try to compare yourself to other people and think about how you could be like them. Think about how you could be better than you were.
Think about how you can be better than them.
or that. But don't compare yourself to other people.
Told you they wind up in a dark alley 12 hours later.
Everybody was crappy when they started. I can speak to this because I kept my stories from when I started, and it physically hurts to read them now.
I started a Naruto fanfiction, okay?
I saw one, blood gushed
dark
from my eyes. It was a never-ending.
I did fan fiction before the Pony, like back in middle school. That's when I got all the bad ones out. And those are still up.
The
you
real
do not get to know the pen name.
Come on, tell us the
like
pen name.
the real.
Come on.
Nope.
Was it Sonic?
Nope.
Was it Pen Strike?
No.
No, the real past sins is the things we've written before we got published on that. Those are the past sins.
I will remember.
Thank you.
All right, is it my turn? Yep, cool. So yeah, DP already said part what I was gonna say, so keep moving. So I guess what I would say is reread your work. Whether it's editing, like going back on a rough draft or a first draft or a second draft, or whether it's coming back to something you wrote 6 months ago just to see where you were at the time. Like honestly, rereading my work is one of the most invaluable things I've done. Like just in terms of editing, usually after I've written a story, I'll just let it simmer for 24 hours, and then I'll print it all out, hard copy, double spaced, get out a red pen, and by the time I'm done with it, 5 hours later, it looks like a hedgehog or like a groundhog or something attacked and just let it bleeding everywhere.
Gotta go fast.
You're too slow.
Okay.
All right.
And the low-hanging fruit that no one actually caught. I'm impressed with us. We didn't go for the low-hanging fruit to write weekly, daily.
Oh yeah, right. Write a lot.
Write daily if you can.
Write a lot.
Weekly. Like, if you're just someone who wants to write for inspiration, like just when you want as an outlet, like that's perfectly fine. But if you want to really go somewhere with it, like if writing's really important to you as like a hobby or more than a hobby, like write daily, write weekly, just set yourself a goal and meet it. It doesn't have to be 2,000 words every day. It can be 100 words a day. It can be 500 words a day. But just keep yourself on track so that you can both look at your work and keep improving steadily, but also so that you can set up a good habit, so that you can see, so you can more easily slip into the mindset of a writer. Because everyone sat here staring at a page for 5 hours because they don't know what to write. So if you're
it is also good to keep you from losing skills, because if you get caught up in stuff and you don't write for 2 months, it's going to be noticeable that you've kind of forgotten how to write.
Yeah,
Right.
or at least you need to just like shake off the rust and get back into
A moment, please.
Keep writing, keep sharp.
That low-hanging fruit is the apple of my eye.
Okay, that doesn't work though, because apple trees are actually really tall, so that makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
Have you never watched the show? There are apple trees everywhere.
I grew an apple on a vine once.
That's not how
That
apples
wasn't
work.
an apple.
Okay.
It might have been a tomato.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, but the tomato in my eye doesn't sound good. Here's
tomato at
this
my
question
eye.
isn't on the list you gave me, but something I always like to ask. Right now, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Name 3 stories that everyone in this room needs to read. 3 fan fictions that everyone in this room needs to read.
Do they include ours or not?
Huh?
Do they include like rare parts of our library or not?
Can we self-plug?
Okay, I mean, if you want to be that self-aggrandizing and say your own stories,
I ain't gonna stop you.
Maybe we can just.
again,
maybe
Pen
we'll
Stroke,
just do
I'm
one
pretty sure
story
everyone
line
here
for
has
ourselves.
read.
Okay,
One story.
one time.
One story, because we're already running
Okay.
out of time. We're not really, but we're going to move on to questions soon. So,
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
sure.
If I had to recommend one story, it would be the one that dragged me out of 3 years of not writing and got me back into it, and that would be Device Heretics Eternal.
Okay.
Which way are we going?
Okay,
I'll go.
And then we'll go to me.
All right, I'm going to recommend the one that I always laugh at when I think of, and that is Tilt, where Trixie is a pinball wizard.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I would second that recommendation. I'm going to pick that one because I got nothing else. So Tilt. Fine. Okay. A second one. Let's go with Fleeting Light in the Darkness. There. You get a
Flash Junior?
Twilight Sparkle eats peaches.
No, not okay.
You get a real one.
You're triggering me.
All right. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Colton Gardes here. He wrote. I ran a contest recently, and he wrote an amazing entry for it. It's called "For Whom We Are Hungry." It's an excellent rendition of second person, and I know everyone's going to think here like, oh, second person is going to be this horrible thing. But no, he makes it work.
It's pretty good.
Because he's Colton Gardes.
Right. He is the champion.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go for something a bit lesser known here. First thing that popped in my head when I heard that question was, if you're into tragedy, I would definitely recommend Property of West Wind by Old Greymane. It's really good.
Okay. Cool. And then mine would be Contraptionology by Skywriter, because it really is one of the best Applejacks I've ever read. Like, really great humor, really great tone, which a lot of writers miss, but the tone of that is just fantastic. So Contraptionology.
Right. And I'm going to say Our Gifts by The Descendant, because again, and pretty much anything The Descendant writes is great.
Because he writes Spike.
Exactly. Twilight and Spike. Hey, shut up. You sit there with a Twilight plushie right in front of you.
Did nobody say My Little Dashie?
No. But I will give some popular. I'll say close second to that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, is Background Money by Short Throats and Explosions.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of it, but like, I'm lying if I don't say.
Don't read the ending.
It's great,
Yeah.
right up to the last chapter.
Treat it like Death Note.
That's the unwritten rule of what we're saying here. Every single piece of rule we've told you things not to do, unless you're short skirts. The guy, cause I swear to God, he's a word processor that became sentient.
I mean, the guy has two
He
cards
craps
in
out
Config Cards
50,000
of
word
Humanity for a
fix.
reason.
All right, we're gonna move on. I think we're gonna go to questions now.
Yeah, let's just move on to questions. I don't think the rest of our...
Okay,
Jake,
and wait.
how much time do you have left?
Hold on, and before we go into questions here, let me say here that the vast, I'm sorry, I can't properly emphasize how vast this is. The vast majority of generalized writing advice is going to be habits. You're not going to learn how to write an interesting character from Lavendor Unicorn Syndrome or any mnemonics we can give you. It's you need to learn things like how often you should write, how to get past writer block, and learn other things from like reading better authors and getting proofreaders to give you personal advice. It's not about how to improve my
Hi guys,
writing.
quick note, sorry to interrupt. Jake the Army Guy has to go to the FOB panel. Everyone give a big round of applause for being awesome. Thank you, Jake.
I will let it go that I was so rudely interrupted by Jake's personal needs.
Yes. So now we're moving on to Pav will be taking questions. So if you got a question, raise your hand. Okay, there's a few questions.
First or third person perspective, let's see you prefer better.
It is very much a question of what kind of story you're writing.
Yeah, first person, third person, even second person, each have a place where they where they work really well and all that stuff. Like I've written primary third person, but I did the first person first hours just as an exploration of it.
I mean, if you want to write a young adult dystopian novel, first person's great.
It's just whatever. It just comes down to like what the story really needs.
Yeah, from a scope perspective, third person is most common because a lot of stories are going to cover more than just one person's pair of eyes. But if you want that really direct, really narrow focus of one person's experience of the world, first person is going to get you there.
Yeah. Okay. Another question?
Everybody.
What topics in stories do you think have been overdone? Like there's just too much of them, and what would you like to see more of? There's not enough of.
Yeah, well, let's keep that brief because there's a lot of things that could fall under that one.
Everything has been overdone.
Yeah.
Go away.
Is that really the answer?
Well, are we going down the line to answer this?
Well, let's just, I don't know, let's kind of be brief about it, I suppose. So, if you want to do that, then go ahead. Do you want to go down the line?
No.
Let's do another
No.
question.
Okay, let's do another
Remember,
one.
guys, we have limited time, so try to avoid kind of brief, one-shotty answers. We're here afterwards to answer any quick things.
Yeah, and try to ask like super broad questions that would take a long time to explain.
All right. Next
Try,
question.
What's your opinion on people who base characters on themselves? Is that ever done successfully, or is it just something you should never do?
I think it depends on the percentage of the self that is in the character, because self-inserts suffer from the thing where you don't want that character to suffer, or you want them to be overly successful, because hey, it's you, it's 100% or 90%, but at the same time, as we mentioned earlier, something that helps bring depth to the characters is giving them that 5% of you that they like going on hikes in the mountains like you do, or likes to go bowling like you do. It's like, if that's the only thing, then that can actually bring depth to the character, but it's like, you don't want to hit critical mass.
Yes.
I would actually say that it is possible if and only if you are able to look at yourself as a character, not add a bunch of extra, like, strengths, not take away too many flaws. Everyone is a character, you just have to be able to look at yourself in that light.
Spoiler alert, you will not succeed. Just don't even try until you're good enough to go,
What's
like,
your name,
okay,
short
I think I can do this. Yeah, if you're short skirts, you can get away with that.
Yeah, if you're short skirts, just leave the panel now.
Where are you, short skirts?
Yeah, so.
We know you're here.
Next question. Somebody?
Hi. I have trouble motivating myself. I know what you said, everything is about habit. To start writing, I'm actually writing an original story.
Oh, okay, go.
All right.
So, but I've got 1.5 characters developed, and the world, I don't even know if it's going to be a fantasy world or just something a little off from our world. But I'm just wondering, is there any way to help you motivate yourself?
Honestly, my way of motivating myself is through music, because I get all of my ideas from music. So like, I'll be just shuffling through my playlist. Because I mean, you can tell when I'm out of ideas because I'm just randomly clicking next on my iTunes playlist. So I mean, for me, music gets me pumped up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys for coming out. We'll all be hanging out at Built-in Sofas. Thank you for the hats. Thank you for coming, everyone. Hope you had a good time. Come down to Built-in Sofas, the writers and artists room, to say hi. We'll all be there. We have no social lives outside of that room.
Anyone with pictures, meet up with me. I need that.